right? Like if you have a well-documented security program, you've had a number of controls. Yes, absolutely. Attackers that are determined are going to spend resources, time, money, maybe burning tools that haven't been seen before as well on a high enough value target. But ultimately, that's kind of what that regulatory function is meant to do, right? Enforce that and say what can be done
better, right? Let's just assume that they were doing everything.
It's always easy to speculate.
That's in a way the difficult part and the good part about the legal system, right? Is like, look, if you're a breast cancer patient and images get leaked, right? That's definition of insult to injury, right? And so I can certainly see in that case, like, somebody filing a lawsuit against you, right? Now, if they've done everything, if they've got the documentation, the governance, if they've got the right stuff in place, there's going to be something that they could have done better. But the question is the juice worth the squeeze? Like, was the right business decision made? And if that comes out, hopefully, again, that lawsuit will then come out for them.
But then again, that's what the benefit of hindsight, right?
So right, but what I'm saying is but again, there are standards and there are if they come out that they did all the right things, then my hope would be that they would win the lawsuit, right? The challenge with the legal system is anybody can file a lawsuit for anything. You could be perfect and you could still end up with a lawsuit.
And juries aren't necessarily rational.
That's true.
Good. So third one.
Which is, again, I think just an enhancement of like why you need to protect yourself. Right? Like why you need to be doing all the right things, why you need to make the investment, why you need to have a CISO, why he needs to have a seat at the table so he understands the business, you understand the risk. Like if you're not doing all those things, you're going into the lawsuit like with the cards already stacked against you. So, even on the board level, like the board should have somebody on the board that actually understands
those risks.
Or has experience with cyber, right?
Risk management.
Like there are very few boards, even in the Fortune 500. Latest stats I've seen said that there's one, General Motors, that actually has a decent, like I think 2 or 3 people on the board that actually have cyber experience, right?
Okay.
Not just that, hey, I went to an hour class on cyber, right? That isn't experience. So out of the Fortune 500 with only one board that actually has that, I'm assuming there will be more in light of all these things. That speaks volumes, right? Like get somebody on your board who actually has experience and understand. I mean, that's one thing you could start to do. And I think if you're doing a little more than the regulatory guidelines say, you're probably going to come out in at least in a decent position to start with, right? But don't let the cards get stacked against you.
Okay, that's the lawsuits, but the regulators coming after you. The regulators coming after you, right? So.
Yeah, but then you're either going to meet the regulation or you're not, right? Like the bad thing about a lawsuit is if you're going to get sued, it's kind of, you don't know how it's going to come out, right? There's the law, but the law is always at the will, the attorneys and what gets negotiated and the feelings of the jury, right, as you put it. With a regulatory environment,
it's fairly cut.
It's clearly written down. If you didn't do the regulatory things that you needed to do, well, then I would expect you to be, found guilty by the regulators, right? If you're doing everything, then
and
likely you'll come out okay. That documentation. And a lot of times, like when you go under audit or regulatory guidelines, they don't want to see that they do want to see that you're doing everything, but they're not necessarily looking for perfect. What they're looking for is you have documented process and you are adhering to the process.
Okay.
If you're saying you're scanning on a weekly basis and you're only scanning monthly, that's a problem, right? If you say I have an EDR and I've got it deployed to all my machines and you don't have it deployed to half your environment, that's a problem, right? So again, there's nuance in this, but a lot of times it's, are you adhering to what you say you're doing and do you have documentation to prove it?